going to be talking about biology or biophysics. I do have a degree in chemistry and I'm assigned to teach biology. So I am going to introduce the topic of biology from a biophysical or biochemical perspective. And bear with me here for a while, okay? Okay, it turns out that biology and chemistry, for the most part, are classical physics. That means that a pound is a pound, a foot is a foot, and so on in the Galilean reference frame. We're not talking about the expanded space-time continuum in a hyperbolic paraboloid or spherical expansion of the universe, right? As Einstein postulated in his quantum world of the galaxy expansion, right? Yeah, classical physics is fundamental. If you have a triangle on a hyperbolic paraboloid, the angles are less than 180. If you have a triangle on a sphere, the angles are greater than 180. If you have a triangle in classical physics, they're exactly 180 associated with the Pythagorean theorem. So basically space and time and weight are absolute in classical physics. For the most part, that's what chemists deal with. Okay, so biology, I like to make, there's some tunneling with beta particles and so on and so forth, and potential energy gradients in biophysics that cross over into the quantum realm. But for the most part, classical physics is the cornerstone of many biological processes, physiological processes, and chemical processes. Okay, now it turns out that biology actually seems to violate this second law of thermodynamics, where it says the total entropy of the universe is equal to system plus surroundings must increase. That means that in a dogma viewpoint where everything turns back to ashes or dust or what have you, stardust, the interim time where you have a biological system actually defies this, because the biological system is highly ordered and organized. It's a miracle that you actually exist in a contained system. Basically, it says that the energy, the spontaneity of your body, whether it's just a mishmash of carbon and so on, so many minerals and so on, and stardust, is organized so that you have the fundamental virulence and virtue associated with what is the creative underlying universal law, right, of coexistence and creation. So basically, this is contrary. The fact that a biological system is contained in a highly ordered and highly organized fashion with life actually contradicts, it seems, the second law of thermodynamics, where it says everything should be chaotic. Okay, just thought I'd throw that in along with the classical physics example. Physics, of course, is governed by thermodynamics as well as chemistry, right? We're governed by the laws of thermodynamics. Okay, quantum physics. This is an example of well, it looks like a nautilus, basically. I think this is a spiral of Archimedes in the space-time continuum. I just typed in what is the space-time continuum, and this beautiful picture came up. The expansion of the universe. I just thought I'd put it up there. Quantum physics, of course, incorporates the macroscopic, or the huge scale of the galaxy, as well as the microcosm of what is a beta particle or an alpha particle. Okay, in the quantum world, right? Okay, tunneling. This is an example of quantum physics. Basically, you can have a beta particle and it can tunnel across a lead brick, and you can put it in dry ice or liquid nitrogen, and you can see the tails. Like, let's say this is the brick, and you have a beta particle. It goes through here, tunnels across the whole brick, and it shoots out this way. And the trails are elucidated with the liquid nitrogen. They just shoot out this way, or they shoot out this way, or they shoot out this way. Alpha particles, which is a helium nucleus stripped of its electrons, do the same thing. It tunnels across the lead brick, and it goes like this. It slits. They shoot out not as the tails aren't as long as the betas, of course. They just shoot out this way, or they shoot out this way. Real small tails, right? It turns out that this is an example of tunneling that I just picked up off the internet. I think they're talking about aluminum oxide. Aluminum oxide is rusty aluminum, oxidized aluminum. It turns out aluminum and nickel aluminum, I think they're talking about all the earth, it seems, because aluminum is the most prevalent metal on the earth's crust and nickel is in the earth's core. I don't really understand what they're talking about in particular about this slide, but they do have the potential energy well associated with the electron excitation of the beta particle going up, relaxing down, and the difference is the energy that is the photonic emission to relax back to the ground state. Okay, that's just fundamental phosphorescence or fluorescence in a firefly, for example. There you go. Well, that's an example of tunneling for you in a biological system, the firefly. Okay, beta particle. What is a beta particle? It's an electron. Okay, it's negatively charged beta particle. Here's the electrons whizzing about this atom, and here's a nucleus with binding energies and so on and so forth that defy the summation. Let's say you have an atom, right, with a certain amount of protons and neutrons with their assigned masses, and the electrons with their infinitesimal masses. You sum up all these masses and they do not add up to what the empirical weight is of that particular molecular or of that particular molecular atom. Okay, they do not add up. Why? Because this has a binding energy associated with E is equal to mc squared. Einstein's E is equal to mc squared is universal. It could be huge in the outer sphere, outer space, or it could be within the vacuum of an atom, right? And the nucleus has binding energies and all kinds of physical quantum physicist things that are going on in here, where energy and mass are about the same thing related to the constant of the speed of light squared. So this binding energy associated with imparted mass, I suspect, is not accounted for with respect to the trades of what is a classical physics in a Galilean space, in a Galilean reference frame, right? Where a triangle is a triangle, and an inch would be an inch, and a gram is a gram, and that's it. You see. But this is a beta particle I'm talking about, quantum physics, so it's a little different, a little eccentric, if you will. Okay, hold on a minute. Here's the alpha particle. You have 2 protons and 2 neutrons. This is the helium nucleus without its electrons, right? That's the alpha particle. It can shoot through potential energy. It can tunnel also. Okay. Now that's lithium. Okay, it turns out that lithium is the mass limit of quantum mechanics. After lithium, everything behaves classically. Yeah, lithium for the most part behaves classically. It has 7 AMU. I think it has 4 neutrons and 3 protons, right? And there's 3 electrons, so it has 3 protons and 4 neutrons with an AMU of about 6.9 something or other, right? Like I said, the binding energies do not add up. All right, or the binding energies are not accounted for in the masses of the molecular weights, right? Because we're just skilled tradesmen for the most part. And the chemists are basically just skilled tradesmen at the molecular level or the molecular architectural level. Yeah, hold on a minute. Okay, potential. Okay. Now, the electrons and the protons, you have proton pumps, you have electron gradients in the body, and the brain potential is about 10 watts. Here I got this meme where it says the brain generates about 12 to 25 watts of electricity. This is enough to power a low voltage LED light. Like that hall light, that night light in your hallway is 10-watt bulb, right? So your brain basically powers a lot of energy, right? It consumes a lot of sugar and it generates a lot of energy. So I just thought I'd bring this up. It brings to mind that movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, where Lawrence Fishburne shows Keanu Reeves a Duracell battery, and it scares old Keanu Reeves because of just the Matrix, the general idea of what the Matrix is. Okay, anyway, but nevertheless, there is a certain amount of truth with respect to the potential of the body. Okay, the brain has 10 watts of energy. Okay, this is a sodium potassium pump. The sodium, the potassium is on the outside of the cell. The sodium is in the inside of the cell. You have a gradient, and these ions flow. They flow in through this looks like a rotor, right? This is binding for ATP. So this is the ATPase, and these things just flow. Yeah, it's not one. It's like a whole bunch of them flow, and they flow this way, right? To maintain millivolt potential of about 100 millivolts or 1/10 of a whole volt, right, through your electrochemical spinal cord, okay, and muscles. Okay, so the brain, okay, in the biological system, you have the limbic system. This is the limbic system. It's deeply embedded in your brain. This is a reptilian brain. It governs your emotional state. It keeps you alive. That is a fundamental reason why people stay alive and they try to thrive in this world, right? Through the natural law, under the ingratiated higher powers view of coexistence within, in the Catholic tradition, the gospel. Okay, now the human connectome is this. It is elaborate. This is a whole brain and how it's wired to your spinal cord so that your actions and your personality profile are embedded in this connectome. There's this cryogenics lab in Comfort, Texas that studies the human connectome in cadavers like Walt Disney and these guys that are cryogenically frozen with the hope of imparting the virtue and the virulence associated with what is life back into the connectome so that they reconnect the brain to whether it's a robot or some bio cyborg. I don't know what it is, but they have the brain and they want to impart the virtue, the virulence and virtue of what is life back into the human connectome and reestablish life in the formerly deceased patient. Now they say this would change the social contract of what is life itself. That may or may not be true. It's yet to be seen. Okay, the outer cortex. This is what you're cognizant of. This is the sensory stimuli. This is your inspirative genius through what makes you human to go about problem solving. All right, that's the outer cortex. Here I just put brain potential associated with this, and this came out. It's a beautiful picture of a brain. Anyway, I was going to put infinity, like the brain potential, of course, and this motif is infinite, right? Turns out that the Eightfold Path, sort of with the Buddhist tradition, is to pick the appropriate livelihood, right, associated with biology. That's why I'm giving this lecture. Could be anything, though, associated with what is a noble livelihood. Okay, Young's modulus. Okay, apparently this school does not have football, and I before I knew that, I figured out that the polymer of a football helmet is this. It's polycarbonate with a Young's modulus of about 2 megapascals, or it breaks, it fractures at about 600 pounds of compressive strength on the helmet, right? You have the Young's modulus where you have the compressive stress divided by the axial strain. So you have basically vertical versus tangential forces and stressors that impart the fractures of any material. So for the Young's modulus to these youngsters, I thought it'd be a neat slide to see where you have different materials with different Young's moduluses that could withstand more stresses and strains, and it imparts a greater hardiness to the material itself. Okay. End note, biology is a macro structure. That means that it is a huge, elegant structure that defies the first or the second law of thermodynamics, where entropy should be greater, and it's self-contained in the miraculous structure of what is a living organism, right? Especially a human. The most highest form of evolutionary biology is in you. So biology is a macro structure, right? There's a lot of things, a lot of different variables and parameters. Parametric equations, for example, deals with multivariable structures. Venn diagrams, I guess, and logical functions. Basically, chemistry is contained with less variables, right? You have a test tube and you add what is within the container, and you do an experiment, right? Kind of like an aquarium, a saltwater aquarium, where you have to add the minerals and the salts and all these things to the water so that your fish don't get stressed out, right? There's more control, right? Biophysics, both quantum electronics and classical gradients. Yeah, I touched upon this, right? Brain chemistry is about 20 watts, like a little light bulb. And you have a 100 millivolt potential, about 1/10 of a volt in the sodium potassium pump for your muscles and your fight or flight, what have you thing, to keep you alive, associated with the limbic system. Okay. Now, why study biology, right? And why go about the effort to incorporate this and teach it? Well, it turns out that San Antonio has a prolific metropolis of medicine. It has about 14 hospitals. There's other aspects of applied science or allied sciences that this could come in very useful. You could be a molecular technician. Basically, it's a chemist in the hospital that looks at this kind of thing that I'm talking about. You can have a medical lab technician. You can have a molecular diagnostician. There's all kinds of sub niches within the medical community and applied sciences and allied sciences, allied health fields that biology would come very, very handy, right, to understand it from its fundamental basis set. Okay, I guess that's all for now. Goodbye.